Hi, everybody, and welcome back for another exciting week of Español. I hope that you are enjoying these videos and that they are helping you. The goal here is just to give you some practice with language. Remember, these are in no way intended to be a substitution for studying your vocabulary or doing your assignments, reading your book. These are just here to sort of reinforce what you're learning and make sure that you are taking away what you need to take away each week. That being said, the good news is that chapter 2, Como es tu vida? How is your life? What's your life like? Has a lot less information in it than chapter 1. Chapter 1 was just jam-packed full of information, but here we are going to cover quite a few important topics. In this chapter, you will learn how to identify family members like mom, dad, sister, brother. We're going to demonstrate understanding of possessive adjectives like my, your, his, or her. We're going to conjugate AR verbs in the present tense, and you should be also identifying vocabulary related to buildings on campus and different locations in the community. And finally, we'll be creating sentences using correct adjective placement, which we talked about a little bit in our last lecture video. And you're going to be creating some sentences using another verb called tener, which means to have. So these are our goals for this chapter. We're going to just slowly go through these things together and make sure that you are prepared, okay? So first I want to talk to you about some family vocabulary. This image is going to be really important as we move through some of the activities in this particular video. So this is from your book, and it tells you that esta es la familia de Hernán. This is Hernán's family. And ¿cuántas personas hay en su familia? How many people are in his family? So you could count and come up with a number there. As we look at different people, let's find Hernán. He's down here where it says yo. To his left, you see el hermano, and to his right, la hermana. El hermano is his brother, Juan Pablo, and la hermana is his sister. Up top, you see Suyapa, la madre, his mother, and Orlando, el padre, his father. Up above that, you can see Fabiola, la abuela, his grandmother, and Alberto, his grandfather, who appears to be muerto. Over here to the right, you can look, if you go straight across, you see El Primo and La Prima. These are his cousins, Lorenzo and Ana. El Primo is a male cousin, and La Prima is a female cousin. Up above that, you see Jacobo and Lucero. Jacobo is his tío, his uncle, and Lucero is his tía, his aunt. Look at Oso here, El Perro, the dog. And I think it's cute here that the dog's name is Oso, which is bear. It's a dog, but it's named Bear. I don't know, that's just cute. Okay, up here, you also see his other set of grandparents. You see El Abuelo, grandfather, and La Abuela, grandmother. And here you see El Gato, the cat. His name is Silvestre. You have some other animals as well. Down here, Lorenzo must have a pet rat, El Raton, whose name is Timiteo. And then over here, it looks like Hernan and Belén share Pinto here, who is their pet caballo, the horse, caballo. They have a bird here, el pájaro, whose name is Nacho, y el pez, the fish, quien se llama burbuja, burbuja. Interesting. Okay, so these are the family members. You have extended family also listed, like hermanastro, stepbrother, medio hermano, half brother, nieto, grandson, so on and so forth. You will need to know those words. Please make sure you study them. You also hear the word here for novio, which is boyfriend or girlfriend, mejor amigo, best friend, mascota, pet. Make sure you study those. Okay, so we're going to go back to that graphic we just saw, and I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you, ¿Cómo se llama? What is so-and-so's name? And it's going to give you a family member. So example, in number 1, ¿Cómo se llama la madre de Suyapa? What is la madre de Suyapa? Suyapa's mother's name. ¿Cómo se llama la madre de Suyapa? Well, if we look here at our visual, we see Suyapa here. She's Hernan's mother. And Suyapa's mother's name is Fabiola. So we would say la madre de Suyapa se llama Fabiola. Fabiola. ¿Cómo se llama el padre de Lorenzo? Well, if we find Lorenzo, where is he? Lorenzo. El padre de Lorenzo, the father of Lorenzo, is right above him. Y el padre de Lorenzo se llama Jacobo. Jacobo. Okay, I want you to take a moment. I want you to pause your audio and try numbers 3 through 6, por favor. When you're ready, you can unmute. Okay, now you've had a second to try these. Number 3 says, Los padres de Orlando y Jacobo. So as we're looking here at los padres, the parents of Orlando and Jacobo, well, we see Jacobo is here, Orlando is here. There's some lines connecting them up here to these folks. Clara and Leonardo son los padres de Orlando y Jacobo. So Clara y Leonardo are the people we're looking for here. And number 4, we're looking for la hermana de Juan Pablo. So let's find Juan Pablo. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Okay, Juan Pablo. Y la hermana de Juan Pablo se llama Belén. Belén. Belén is his sister. Number 5, los tíos de Lorenzo. If we find Lorenzo, his tíos are his aunt and uncle. And that would be Suyapa and Orlando. And la mascota de Hernán, his pet. Hernán's pet, you can see that's el caballo pinto. Pinto. So that gives you a little practice. Something else you might be asked to do in MindTap, still using a visual such as this, is it might give you a sentence that Suyapa es la blank de Ana. So you have to find Suyapa, and you have to find Ana, who's down here, and it says Suyapa is Ana's blank. Well, in this case, it looks like they appear to have an aunt-niece relationship. So Suyapa would be the aunt of Ana. Suyapa es la tía de Ana. Okay, I want you to, let's do one more. It says we're talking about Fabiola here. We're talking about Suyapa. So let's find them. We see Fabiola up here and Suyapa down here. And it says Fabiola es la blank de Suyapa. Fabiola is the blank of Suyapa. Fabiola is the mother of Suyapa. So Fabiola es la madre de Suyapa. Okay, I want you to pause your audio for me, por favor, and give numbers 3 through 8 a quick try for me, please. All right, now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look. Number 3, we're talking about Hernán and Orlando. Hernán is here, Orlando is here. We know that Hernán is the blank of Orlando, and Hernán would be the son. Hernán es el hijo de Orlando. Number 4, we see Belén. ¿Quién está aquí? Belén. And Lorenzo. Lorenzo. So Belén is the blank of Lorenzo. It looks like they're cousins, and Belén would be the female cousin. So we would say that she is la prima de Lorenzo. Number 5, Jacobo y Orlando. Well, if we find Jacobo here and we find Orlando, they appear to be brothers. They have the same parents. So Jacobo y Orlando son brothers, son hermanos. Hermanos. Número 6, Hernán es el blank de Jacobo. We see Hernán aquí and Jacobo aquí. It looks like Hernán appears to be the nephew of Jacobo. So Hernán es el sobrino de Jacobo. Sobrino, the nephew. We also see Clara. Where's Clara? We see Clara here and Leonardo in the next one. It appears that Clara is the blank of Leonardo. Clara appears to be the grandmother of Leonardo. La abuela. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at Lorenzo. Just kidding. Clara is the blank of Leonardo. Leonardo's up here and Clara's here. So they are husband and wife. Clara is the spouse or the wife. La esposa de Leonardo. Lo siento. Número 8. Fabiola es la blank de Juan Pablo. We see Fabiola here. And Juan Pablo is down here. It appears that Fabiola is the grandmother of Juan Pablo. Fabiola es la abuela de Juan Pablo. Hopefully you're feeling okay about these family vocabulary words. Our first grammar topic here in Chapter 2 is possessive adjectives. We have possessive adjectives in English. These are things like my, your, his or her, our, and their. And in Spanish, there are 2 ways to say my. You can say either mi or mis. These possessive adjectives do have to agree in gender and number with whatever you're describing. So for example, mi hermano, my brother. There's only one brother, so I said mi. But mis hermanos, there are multiple brothers here, so I have to use the plural form of the possessive adjective mis. So basically, your possessive adjectives have to agree in number, and sometimes in gender also, with the noun that they describe. So you have mi and mis for my, tú and tú for your, informal, su and sus for his or her, and nuestro is where it gets complicated. You have, for our, you can use nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, or nuestras. In this case, primo is a male cousin, so nuestro primo would be our male cousin. Because the male cousin is masculine, we're going to use the masculine singular possessive adjective nuestro. If I have multiple male cousins, nuestros primos. In this case, primos ends in os, so nuestros also has to agree to be masculine plural. Same thing here, nuestra prima, our female cousin. Prima is feminine singular, So nuestra has to agree. Nuestra prima, and then nuestras primas, our cousins. They have to agree. Okay. Same down here, vuestro tío, vuestros tíos, vuestra tía, vuestras tías, your alls in Spain. And then su and sus again for their or your alls. I organized these here in the format that you've learned with your subject pronouns in your magical chart. So again, mi, tu, su, nuestro, vuestro, su. Okay, let's expand on this just a little bit. As I said, they do have to agree in number. So mi familia, familia was singular, so I used mi instead of mis. Sus padres, his parents, there were multiple parents, so I used sus instead of just su. And then nuestro and vuestro agree in gender as well as numbers. So that's why when you have a female cat, gata, we don't say nuestro gata, because the gata is what this has to agree with. The gata, the female cat in this case, is a feminine noun, so we have to say nuestra to make it agree. Okay. One important thing to note here as well, in English we use this apostrophe S to show possession. So that's Matt's dog, that's John's cat, that's Tanya's book, so on and so forth. There is no apostrophe S in Spanish, so you have to say that is the dog of Matt, that is the cat of John, that is the book of Tanya. So you'll notice here, you see, es la casa de mi hermano. It's not mi hermano's casa. It's the house of my brother. La casa de mi hermano, of my brother. And you can shorten that to es su casa. It's his house. Okay. Ellas son las hijas de Patricia. So instead of Patricia's daughters, those are the daughters of Patricia. Las hijas de Patricia. And you could shorten it to say those are her daughters. Son sus hijas. Again, with sus agreeing with hijas. Okay, so be careful there. A lot of people want to do that apostrophe S thing in Spanish, and you can't do that, so be careful there. A few other things. We have contractions in English, like will not becomes won't, do not becomes doesn't, or so on and so forth. Or does not becomes doesn't, do not becomes don't. Those options, those contractions in English are optional. You don't have to use them. You can say don't or do not, and both are understood. In Spanish, the contractions are mandatory. You have to use them. So here we see the contraction de él, which becomes del. This is only when you have de with the masculine article el. So you can still use de la, you can still use de las and de los, but de él becomes del. If you're wondering why, there's two vowels here side by side, and it kind of becomes a word vomit. When you're trying to say de él, it almost comes out as del anyway. So an example here, Macarena es la esposa del profesor. So Macarena is the wife of the professor. La esposa del profesor. So they took de el profesor and turned it into del in contraction form. Again, this only happens with de and el. It does not happen with de and la. It does not happen with de and las. It does not happen with de and los. De and el becomes del. Everything else is normal. De la, de las, de los. But de and el becomes del. Just like down here, you see Max es el perro de la familia, of the family. Okie doke. Let's practice with these a little bit. I want you to choose the correct possessive adjective in parentheses. And number one, you see either mi or mis madre es bonita. So my mom is pretty. There's only one mom there. Madre is singular, so we chose mi madre. Number two, mi or mis padre es alto. My dad is tall. There's only one dad there, padre. So mi padre es alto. Please pause your audio and give numbers 3 through 6 a quick try for me, por favor. Okay, number 3. Blank hermanas son cómicas. So my sisters are funny. There's multiple sisters here, so I have to say mis hermanas to make it agree in number. Number 4, either mi or mis perro es pequeño. In this case, there's only one dog, a singular perro, so it has to be mi perro. Number 5, mi or mis abuelos son simpáticos. My grandparents are nice. In this case, there are multiple grandparents. It should be mis abuelos. And in number 6, either mi or mis amigos son inteligentes. There are multiple amigos here. It should be mis amigos. Okay, hopefully you're feeling good about those. I want to give you just a smidge more practice. Where people usually have trouble with these is with su or sus and deciding between those. Remember, it depends on the number, whether the noun you're describing is singular or plural. That's all that you're looking at is the word that comes right after the possessive adjective and then deciding if it's singular or plural. So for example, in this paragraph, you see Alberto, David y Oscar son hermanos. They're brothers. Y tienen un apartamento en Lima. And they have an apartment in Lima, the capital city of Peru. And you want to hear that their apartment is small. There's multiple guys here, Alberto, David, and Oscar. So you tend to want to say sus, because you're talking about multiple guys. That is not how this works. Okay, it matters that we're talking about an apartment. How many apartments are here? Only one apartment. So instead of sus apartamento, we are going to say su apartamento because there's only one apartment there. Okay, their apartment is small. Su apartamento es pequeño, pero confortable. It's small, but it's comfortable. Alberto y David comparten un cuarto y hay muchos carteles en blank cuarto. So Alberto and David share a room, and there are a lot of posters in their room. Again, it doesn't matter that David and Alberto are two people. It matters that the word room here, there's one room, it's singular, so their room becomes su cuarto. If they had their own separate rooms, it would become sus cuartos, okay? But they don't. There's only one room, so it's su cuarto. I want you to go ahead and pause your audio, please, and try numbers 3 through 7, por favor. All right, now you've got a second to try these. Let's take a look. In number 3, Alberto and David share a room, and there are a lot of posters in their room. And then their brother, Oscar, has a small room. So their brother, hermano in this case, is singular, so we used su. Their brother, Oscar, has a small room. Él tiene dos gatos y un perro. He has 2 cats and a dog. Their pets molestan mucho a blank hermanos. So his pets bother his brothers a lot. So his pets, there are multiple pets here, mascotas. So I need to use sus instead of su because there are multiple pets. Sus mascotas molestan mucho a sus hermanos. Again, multiple brothers here that are being bothered. So it would be sus instead of su. So his pets bother his brothers a lot because his dog is always on the sofa. So again, there's only one dog here. So instead of sus, we're going to use su. His dog is always on the sofa. And his cats are always on the table. So there's multiple cats here. It should be sus gatos. Okay? Hopefully you're feeling better about those possessive adjectives. Our second grammatical structure in this chapter relates to AR verbs. So before we throw back to those AR verbs, or before we learn those AR verbs, let's throw back to something you've already learned. Remember these subject pronouns. You have yo, which means I. Tú, you informal. Él, he. Ella, she. And usted, you formal. Nosotros and nosotras both mean we. Vosotros and vosotras both mean you all in Spain. Ellos, they masculine. Ellas, they feminine. And ustedes, you all used everywhere other than Spain. These are those possessive adjectives that you learned back in chapter 1 that I told you were going to be super importante. Well, they are. So now we're going to take these and apply them to AR verbs. So you'll notice that all verbs in Spanish end in AR, ER, or IR. And those are called infinitives, and they're always translated as to and something else. So for example, hablar was to talk. Comer was to eat. Escribir, to write. These are all infinitives or verbs in Spanish. Right now, you're only learning how to conjugate verbs that end in AR. Next chapter, we'll learn how to do ER and IR verbs. But right now, we're just doing AR verbs. I just want you to know the big picture, where we're going. Okay, so take this AR verb, hablar, to talk. The first thing we need to do to conjugate it is take hablar and chop off the AR. You're left with what is HABL. So I always tell my students, after you chop off the AR, next you need to hobble on down, just like math. Take off your AR and carry down the HABL. That's what you're left with. We have a common set of AR verb endings in Espanol, and these endings are o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. So if I just left it like this, yo hablar, I to talk. Tú hablar, you to talk. Él, ella, usted hablar. He or she or you formal to talk. That would be crazy. I wouldn't. You would look at me like I'm insane if I said I to speak Spanish, you to speak French, and he to speak German. You'd be like, dude, where are you from? You don't speak English. So in this case, you need to conjugate the verb hablar by taking off the AR and changing it. Whenever you add these endings on there, when you change hablar to hablo and you conjugate it, you're saying hablo, I talk. Hablas, you talk. Habla, he or she talks. Hablamos, we talk. Habláis, you all in Spain talk. And hablan, they talk. Okay, so this is the conjugation process for AR verbs. I'm going to give you a verb now, bailar, and I want you to try it following those same processes. Okay, so take a moment, pause your audio, and write this one out. Give it a try. All right, now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look. So bailar was to dance. Remember, the first thing we do is carry down bailar, and then we chop off this AR in bailar. When we do, we're left with BAIL in all of the boxes. Next, I need to throw my AR verb endings on there. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. And I end up with bailo, I dance. Bailas, he or she dances. Bailo, I dance. Bailas, you dance. Baila, he or she dances. Bailamos, we dance. Bailais, you all in Spain dance. And bailan, they or you all dance. These are your AR verb conjugations, and that's how those work in Espanol. All of your AR verbs will work like this. You chop off the AR, and you're going to add back o, as, a, amos, ais, or an, depending on the verb that you're dealing with. So take a look here. You see a conversation between two students. In the purple, this lady is saying, ¿Qué estudias? What do you study? They've taken the verb estudiar, they chopped off the AR, and they've added an AS. ¿Qué estudias? What do you study? And this lady responds and she says, Estudio, I study matemáticas. She took the verb estudiar, she chopped off the AR, and she added an O in this case to say estudio, I study. Okay, I want you to practice with these AR verbs just a second. This activity is called Mi familia y yo, my family and I. And you need to finish the sentence with the correct conjugation. So let's do number one together. It says, Yo miro la televisión mucho, or yo miran la televisión mucho. Well, you know my verb here is mirar, to watch. If my subject is yo, I should chop off my AR, and O is the correct ending here to say I watch. So I should say yo miro la televisión. If I said miran, that means they watch, or you all watch. It should be miro in this case. Miro la televisión. Let's do one more. Number two, mis padres manejamos un auto viejo, or mis padres manejan un auto viejo. Well, your verb here is manejar, to drive. My parents would be they. So using the they box, my ending should be an. So I'm going to say mis padres manejan un auto viejo. All right, I'd like for you all to try numbers 3, 4, and 5 for me, please, really quickly. Go ahead and pause this video. Give these a try. Okay, let's take a look. Number 3 says mi esposo, and then your verb is bailar bien. Well, mi esposo, my husband, would be he. So I'm going to use an A as my ending here for the he box. So I should say that mi esposo baila bien. Mi hermana y yo tomar mucho café. My sister and I drink a lot of coffee. Well, tomar is to drink. To say that we drink, I should say mi hermana y yo tomamos mucho café. And number 5, we're asking, do you study a lot? We're taking estudiar, chopping off the AR, and conjugating it in the to form. So, estudias mucho? Do you study a lot? Okay. All right. One more little activity here, practicing with these AR verbs. We're going to mix these AR verbs that you just learned along with the verb ser from chapter 1. So keep bringing it back. Make sure you remember these things. So number 1 says, Yo ser Gabriela. I am Gabriela. Mi esposo se llama Nicolás y él trabaja en un hospital. So I'm Gabriela. My husband's name is Nicholas, and he works in a hospital. So we need to take this verb trabajar. We need to chop off the AR to conjugate it, and Nicholas would be he. So our correct ending here should be an A. We chop off our AR, add back an A. Mi esposo Nicolás trabaja en un hospital. I want you to try numbers 3 through 9 for me, please. Go ahead, pause your audio, and give these a try. All right, now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look. Number 3 says that he spends a lot of time in the hospital. Él pasar mucho tiempo en el hospital. To conjugate pasar, we need to chop off our AR. We're still talking about Nicolás, or he. So if you go through your boxes and look at your endings, you have in the yo form o, and the to form as, and in the he or she form a. So I need to take off my AR. I need to add back an a. Él pasa mucho tiempo en el trabajo. It says that nuestros dos hijos, Dora y Ernesto, estudiar en la universidad. So our 2 children, Dora and Ernesto, they study in the university. So we want to take estudiar, and we want to go and add the correct ending for they. So let's scroll up to our AR verbs again. You can see that the they form ending was an. We chop off that AR in estudiar, and we add back an an. You should get estudian. Okay. Number 5 is a little tricky here. It says mi esposo necesita, and then my verb is trabajar mucho. My husband needs to work a lot. Now, you are tempted to take trabajar and conjugate it by chopping off the AR and adding an A and getting trabaja. That's not the correct answer here in this case because you're saying my husband needs to work a lot. Okay? Trabaja, conjugated with the AR off and the A on the end, becomes he works. So it wouldn't make sense to say my husband he works a lot. We're trying to say he needs to work a lot. So in this case, we leave trabajar in its unconjugated form. You don't have to do anything to it. It's just plain old trabajar. Be careful with that one. A good general rule of thumb is that you are not allowed to have 2 conjugated verbs side by side in Spanish. In this case, necesita is a conjugated verb. It came from the verb necesitar. They chopped off the AR and they added an A to say he needs. So it doesn't make sense to say my husband, he works a lot. So we have to say he needs to work, trabajar mucho. As we continue, pero nosotros siempre tomar vacaciones en julio. So he needs to work a lot, but we always take vacation in July. So we're going to take tomar, chop off the AR, and add back amos to say we take vacations in July. It says the family travels to Bariloche, Argentina. So the family, it travels. I know that's weird because in English we want to say the family, they travel. But in this case we're saying the family, it travels. So we're going to take our verb viajar, chop off our AR, and family falls under it in Spanish. It just so happens to be in this bottom left box, the he, she, it box. So it should be la familia viaja a Bariloche, Argentina. And we ski there. Nosotros esquiamos. Esquiamos. Take off your AR and add back amos. And finally, I don't ski very well, but it's fun. Yo no esquio muy bien, pero es muy divertido. So chop off your AR and add an O, and you get esquio. All right. Our next vocabulary focus in Chapter 2 is the university. So you get to talk about locations in a university like the library, la biblioteca, la librería, the bookstore, el laboratorio, the laboratory, el auditorio, an auditorium, el gimnasio, a gym, la cafetería, cafeteria, el centro estudiantil, the student center, la residencia estudiantil, like a dorm, a student residence. So you get all those vocab words in this chapter. There's also other words such as subjects like historia, history, psicología, psychology, español, of course, Spanish, química, chemistry, biología, física, and more humanities courses, arte, filosofía, música, teatro, literatura, cálculo, álgebra, geometría, ingeniería, francés, inglés, español, alemán. You have all these different school subjects, so to speak. And these are important. Oh, and expresión oral, speech. I know that was probably a fun class. So you have all those. Now we're going to take all those words and we're going to match them up with the subject that they most correspond with. So let's do an example here, just to let you practice your vocab a little bit. In number 1, you have periodismo, which is like writing. Periódico is a newspaper, so periodismo, like newspaper writing. Journalism, you might say. And you want to match that up with whichever subject over here best corresponds. So in this case, newspaper writing or journalism best corresponds with los eventos internacionales because journalists write about international events. And number two, you're given ciencias políticas, and in political science, which one of these makes the most sense? Animales, animals, la computadora, the computer, los elementos, the elements, los verbos, verbs, or los presidentes, the presidents. Well, in political science, you study about politics and the president, so it should be los políticos that best corresponds there. I want you to pause your audio and please give numbers 3 through 6 a try for me. When you're ready, you can unpause. All right, now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look. Number 3 gives us química, chemistry. And you want to go through and add the object over here that best corresponds with química. And in that case, you have los elementos. Chemists study about the elements. So química best matches with elementos. Number 4, in Alemán, in German class, you're going to be studying about conjugating verbs, verbos, just like you are right now in Español. Alemán, verbos. A veterinaria, a veterinarian, generally works with los animales, animals. Veterinaria, animales. And then the last one, number 6, informática. In those IT classes, information technology, you got to use a computadora, a computer. Okay? Our third grammar topic in this chapter relates to the verb tener. In Spanish, tener means to have. And again, we're going to go back to our magical box of Spanish and show you how to conjugate. We do not just say yo tener, I to have, tú tener, you to have, él, ella, usted tener, he or she, it to have. That doesn't make sense, right? We need to conjugate and say I have, you have, he or she has. So tener is an irregular verb, just like ser that you learned about in chapter 1. In this case, we're going to conjugate tener. It's irregular, so you do have to memorize these. We have tengo, I have, tienes, you have, tiene, he or she has, tenemos, we have, tenés, you all in Spain have, or tienen, they have. So say these with me really quick. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. Very good. Okay, you have some expressions here that go along with tener that are always used with the verb tener, such as tener blank años, and that is to have blank years. So I could say, yo tengo 30 años. Yo tengo 30 años. Mi esposa tiene 40 años, or whatever. And you go through and you're explaining someone's age. You also have tener calor, to be hot. So tengo calor. Oh, dude, I'm so hot right now. Or tengo frío. Oh man, I'm so cold. I'm freezing. Tengo frío. Okay. Or tengo hambre. I'm hungry. Tengo hambre. Tengo miedo. I'm afraid. Tengo prisa. I'm in a hurry. Tengo sed. I'm thirsty. So on and so forth. These are your common expressions with tener. They will be on your flashcards in MindTap when you study them. Okay. Other things you need to know. Unlike the adjectives you've been learning about, these noun expressions like tener, they don't change in gender and numbers. So for example, when I said I'm cold, I said tengo frío. If my brothers are saying they're cold, mis hermanos tienen frío. I don't have to change frío to fríos or anything like that, or frías. We don't do that. You're just changing the verb tener in this case to make it agree with the person. So tener in the they form for my brothers, if you look back, in the they form, tener became tienen. So I said, mis hermanos tienen frío. Same thing with my sister. When I'm saying she's sleepy, mi hermana tiene sueño. I didn't make it sueña because my sister is a girl. I just knew that tiene was already conjugated to go along with my sister or she, tiene. So nothing changed with sueño. Okay, let's continue looking here. I've got a couple for you to try. You're going to see a picture on the left, and then you have a tener expression on the right. I want you to match the tener expression to the appropriate facial picture you see on the left. So, for example, number 1 says, tenemos hambre, we are hungry. So where do you see a photo where you see people who are hungry? Well, in letter C, it looks like they're about to eat. So we would say in number 1 here, it would match up with C, tenemos hambre. Okay, I want you to pause for me, please, and give numbers 2 through 6 a quick try. When you're ready, you can unpause us. All right, let's take a look. Number 2 says, tienen miedo. Oh, they're scared. And photo B sure looks like they are afraid. Tienen miedo. They must be watching a horror movie. My favorite. Okay, number 3, it says, tengo 5 años. I'm 5 years old. Well, it looks like the little girl in letter E is 5 years old. That best corresponds with her. Number 4, tiene sed. This person is thirsty. Check out the cat in letter A. He looks pretty thirsty. Tiene sed. And number 5, tienes sueño. Are you sleepy? And this dude up here in number 5 looks like he's about to fall asleep at work or in class or something. So, tienes sueño. Are you sleepy? Letter D best corresponds there. And last one, number 6, tiene prisa. She is in a hurry. And you can see this woman, she's running up the stairs, checking her watch, running. So, tiene prisa, letter F. Those are your tener expressions. Let's go back to that age thing we talked about. Remember, you could use tener with a number and años to say that this person has X number of years. So as you read the paragraph, you see that yo soy estudiante en la Universidad de Salamanca. So I'm a student at la Universidad de Salamanca in Spain, and I have 20 years. To say that I have, we're going to use the yo form of tener, which should be yo tengo 20 años. As you go through the rest of these, I want you to fill in numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 with the appropriate tener word to describe someone's age. Okay? Take a moment, pause your audio. When you're ready, you can unpause. All right, number 2. Mis amigos Sara y Fernando tener 19 años. So my friends Sara and Fernando, they have 19 years. To say that they have, we're going to use the plural form of tener, which was tienen. Tienen 19 años. It says that Sara y yo tener nuestros cumpleaños en noviembre. So Sarah and I have birthdays in November. Sarah and I would be we. So the tener word to go with we in this case should be tenemos. Sara y yo tenemos nuestros cumpleaños. It says that Fernando has his birthday in December, so it should be Fernando tiene su cumpleaños en diciembre. Y tú, and you, ¿cuántos años blank? We're asking how many years do you have? ¿Cuántos años tienes in the to form there? All right, hopefully you're feeling pretty good about the verb tener. Our fourth and final grammatical topic in this chapter relates to adjective placement. And you learned a lot about adjectives in the previous chapter. We learned that if we're talking about one male, our adjective should end in good, an O. One female, our adjective should end in very good, an A. Two males, OS. Two females, AS. And a male and a female still defaults to the masculine version, so it should be OS, right? We're going to take that and expand on it a little bit and talk about the placement of the adjective. As you saw from last chapter, generally speaking, adjectives come after the noun in Spanish. This is weird. So I would not say that Benjamin is a tall boy. I would say Benjamin is a boy tall. I would not say that Dr. Nolan is a nice man. I would say that Dr. Nolan is a man nice. Okay? The adjective in this case goes after the noun instead of before. Okay, so you get man nice instead of nice man. You get boy tall instead of tall boy. So in this case, you see el cálculo es una clase difícil. Calculus is a class difficult. The adjective comes after the noun. Difficult came after class in Spanish. You see down here that la señora Muñoz es una profesora interesante. Señora Muñoz is a professor interesting. Una profesora interesante. There are some exceptions to this. The adjectives mucho, which means a lot, poco, a few, or varios, several or various, those are going to be placed before the noun instead of after, usually in front of the object. So for example, muchos estudiantes estudian francés. A lot of students study French. We didn't say estudiantes mucho, students many. We said muchos estudiantes. These three go in front of the noun instead of after. So, muchos estudiantes estudian francés. Tengo varios libros para esta clase. I have various books for this class. Or hay pocos estudiantes en la clase hoy. So each of these, muchos, varios, and pocos, preceded the noun in this case instead of going after. This is also the case with bueno and malo, good and bad. Those typically also precede the noun they describe. So instead of saying that él es un estudiante bueno, we generally say that él es un buen estudiante, in which case when used with a masculine noun, we drop the O. So es un buen estudiante. Or es una mala clase instead of clase mala. Okay. When you have a series of adjectives in a list, we connect them by using a Y, which just means and. This is the same in English. So I have a notebook that is small and red. For and, you add the letter E. E, Y in Spanish is and, E. Careful with the and, because if you had E, the Y or and, right in front of an adjective which begins with an I, then the Y changes to an E because of pronunciation. Because if you read in the sentence, you would say, el profesor es un hombre honesto, serio e inteligente. Because to say y inteligente, it just makes pronunciation difficult. Y inteligente, it's sort of strange, your vocal cords. So you end up with e inteligente. It's anytime you have two vowels side by side in Spanish, that starts to create a problem. So y or e inteligente instead of y inteligente. I know those are confusing, and I know you need some practice with those, so let's take a look. I've given you multiple choice options here. We see that I blank in mi clase de informática. You're trying to say there are a lot of students. Your options here are estudiantes muchos or muchos estudiantes. You may remember that muchos is one of the adjectives that always precedes the noun. So we should say I muchos estudiantes en mi clase de informática instead of estudiantes muchos. Number two, Maria es blank, and your options are una chica argentina o una argentina chica. So Maria is a girl who is Argentinian or an Argentinian girl. In this case, our noun is chica, and our noun comes after, or excuse me, our adjective comes after our noun in this case. So we should say that Maria es una chica argentina instead of una argentina chica. I want you to try numbers 3 and 4 for me, por favor. Give these a try. When you're ready, you can unpause. Okay, number 3 says that Jorge, George, is blank, and your options are un chico inteligente or un inteligente chico. Obviously, remember that our adjective intelligent is going to come after our noun boy in this case. So we would say that Jorge es un chico inteligente. And in number 4, en el salón de clases, I blank. So in the classroom, there are computadoras varias or varias computadoras. Remember that mucho and poco and vario all precede the noun instead of coming after. So in this case, we would say varias computadoras, and in this case, vario has been changed to varias in order to agree with computadoras, which was also feminine and plural. All right, so you may feel like your brain is going to explode now, but hopefully after successful completion of this chapter, you will now be able to identify family members, demonstrate understanding of possessive adjectives in Spanish, conjugate AR verbs in the present tense, identify vocabulary related to campus buildings and locations, create sentences using the verb tener, and create sentences using correct adjective placement. Guys, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and if at any point you have any questions about something you don't understand, about a mind tap activity, whatever it is, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am here to help you in any way I possibly can. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care.